Have you ever met one of those people who just can't be stopped? It's like they're unstoppable.
Yeah, I have.
Me too.
What's their mystique?
Nothing stops these people.
Don't stop.
Welcome to Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso. You're about to meet some of the most amazing people.
Stop. Don't stop.
They've accomplished their goals despite insurmountable odds. They beat adversity, physical hardship, and traumatic events, and emerged triumphantly. They're people just like you and me, and they're winners. Are you unstoppable? Here's Frankie to show you how.
It's Frankie Sense and More. Wow, it's been a little while since I've seen all of you, but we're back. Today I've got two amazing guests, mother and daughter. Rosie Aiello, she is an award-winning entrepreneur, a best-selling author, a speaker, women's empowerment mentor, and transformational leader. Her daughter, Sunny, was born and raised in both Saudi Arabia and Lebanon until she was 20. And she's armed with a degree in both sociology and theology, and she works with children and young adults to overcome emotional blocks and barriers. Now, together, mom and daughter are the authors of the upcoming memoir, 11 Hours to Freedom. And together, they created the Love is Kind movement to help save 1 million women and their children from domestic abuse. Before I say anything more about that, let's go right to the source. Better to do that. So welcome to the show. So appreciative to have you both here.
Thank you for having us.
It's my pleasure. Now, I know that I didn't give you any questions. I said I'm just gonna go with the flow.
That's
so
fine.
you've got this Love is Kindness. You have the book that you're working on, 11 Hours to Freedom. Obviously it came from somewhere. Rosie coined the term domestic terrorism. So let's take us back to even before you got married and met your husband. Where were you? What were you doing?
I was in California, and I was working in Silicon Valley, the high-tech companies, fast-paced. I was a rising star in corporate financial management, and we had actually met at UC Berkeley, years before, and had kept up, our contacts and things like that. And he had actually moved to Saudi Arabia during that time after he graduated.
But had he lived in America before the whole time, or?
He's from Lebanon, and he did graduate work at Stanford, and then he got a doctorate in civil engineering at UC Berkeley.
Got it.
And I was doing my undergraduate work there, and we met at in a class there. And we did just very little at that time. And then we kind of went our separate ways. He moved to Saudi Arabia, which was really booming. And one day when he was coming to visit the United States, as he always did, he came visiting every year, and he would just call and say hi. And then one year when he called to say hi, it kind of turned into a little bit more.
Okay.
That's how it all started, And
so how long did you have the more before you guys actually just got engaged? And
we dated for about 2 years, and 2 years long distance because he was in Saudi Arabia. But
did you go back and forth to him?
Came back and forth and ran up very expensive telephone bills. There was no Skype during those days or any of these voice-over internet providers.
Yeah. Wow.
So it was quite amazing,
And so during this relationship, did you go to Lebanon and meet his family?
I did after. I'm trying to think of the time frame here. Yeah, it was right before we got engaged. So it was like, well, we were getting more serious, and it's like, well, can I really live in the Middle East? And I think he wanted me to meet his family. So I actually did. I went to Lebanon, and I met his mother and his sister, her husband and 2 children, and some other relatives. I also went to Saudi Arabia, and just to see, because that's where I would be living first, and just to see, could I be there, live there, accommodate there. And the people are fabulous in both countries.
Right. Yeah. And how was his family? Were they progressive?
They were really sweet. His mother is just an angel. We got along really well. I spoke French to his family because I'm fluent in French,
Oh,
so
wow.
that really
Okay.
helped with the communication with his family. And then eventually I learned Arabic, but our primary language was French. Yeah, his family was really sweet. Just and all his extended family too, all of his cousins. I was just really welcomed into the whole family. And the Lebanese are really kind and sociable and fun and like to party and go to restaurants and
Sure. Yeah.
yeah.
And what was his religion?
He is Greek Orthodox,
Okay.
which is similar to Catholicism, except they don't follow the allegiance to the Pope, but
Right.
it's very, very, very close. And his mother, so his father was Greek Orthodox, and then his mother was, well, let's say Catholic for so people
So not a
understand.
huge change for you as far as dynamic in that.
No, and all of his schooling and all through college, through his all
Sure.
undergraduate, was all at a Catholic schools.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And your family is what, Italian background?
Yes. Sicilian, right?
Lots of passion there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the romance went, you got married. What country did you get married in?
We got married in the United States. Actually, that wasn't the plan. The plan was originally to get married in Lebanon, although there was still quite a bit of war going on. But I would say about a month before we were supposed to have gotten married, the person who was his cousin, who was going to be his best man, was killed in
Oh,
one of the
no.
sniper fires. So his mother just said, and her brother passed away. She said, just get married in the United States. Which many years later turned out to be a blessing. We didn't know that, but turned out to be a blessing. And then within a week, we moved to Saudi Arabia. And he'd already been living and working there.
Right, right. Were there any warning signs looking back?
Well, warning signs, now that I'm more educated, yes. Did I know them at the time? No.
No, of course not.
But right,
Yeah.
but yeah, there were signs of his possessiveness, his control, even when he would, come over from Saudi Arabia. It's just like he wanted me to just like drop everything and be with him. But, I was working for a company. I wasn't working for myself. I didn't have,
Sure.
freedom of my own time. He would sometimes call from Saudi Arabia and tell me, or ask me, oh, can you call this store? Or can you go do this errand? And then he'd call me the next day. And when it wasn't done, it's like, oh no, I didn't do it because I'm in an open cubicle, I can barely talk to him, and then he would get very angry. But I just thought, oh, well, I don't want to disappoint him. I
Right.
just got to do better. I knew how to perform, I was high performing in my work. I could be high performing in my relationship. Right? And that was an underlying theme throughout our whole relationship, but I didn't know that.
Did he call you names?
He didn't call me. No, he didn't, like bad names. No, he didn't. But,
Did he ever like subtly go, oh, you're just so stupid, or you're just
he didn't
not?
say you're so stupid, but he would say, you're not a team player. You're just, you're never around for me. I'm not important to you. Lots of guilt trippy kinds
Sure.
of wording and things like that.
Yeah.
He would insult me and put me down in different ways, but he didn't do much name calling.
Okay.
Other than, you're not a team player, but he would just like, how can you forget this? Why don't you know where your keys are? I mean, it just, if I did one little thing wrong, it would be blown up into
A big thing.
all the time.
What did he do?
He was a civil engineer
Okay.
by education, but in Saudi Arabia, he did mostly, he didn't do engineering per se, but he oversaw engineering projects. And he did lots of contract management, which meant Saudi Arabia was just absolutely booming then.
Yeah.
We're talking about the 70s, the mid 70s, oil prices were rising. If you remember the oil embargo here,
Yeah.
well, hot there. And and to get the infrastructure built, Saudi Arabia had to seek sources outside. So he would negotiate with the French, with the Lebanese, with the British, and sometimes with American companies to do work in Saudi Arabia. And those companies needed somebody like him to be that intersection.
Right.
And
And then your daughter was born.
my daughter was born in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
And did the relationship improve or go down from after the birth for the mom?
Well, it was, I can't say it improved. I mean, he was thrilled with the birth of his daughter. I mean, he was
You were
just
daddy's girl, Sunny?
well, she's an only child.
Yeah, so you were like wrapped around his finger a little bit?
I don't know if I can say that because it came with strings attached, so I wouldn't exactly.
But when you were the little girl, the 2, 3-year-old, that 4-year-old, daddy.
Probably.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have my own opinion then.
Right.
Well, I did, but not strongly.
Right.
An opinionated 2-year-old.
Did you feel like as a young girl, did you feel that you had to be perfect all the time?
I realized that later my motto is to go into perfection, especially as an adult. So I imagine that was my case as a kid. But I felt that more so now. When I finally went back to school and completed my undergrad, I could feel the stress of being perfect and the panic and anxiety of not showing up to the standard of perfection. But yeah.
Did he get upset at himself for not being perfect?
I don't know. All I know is he would get mad at mom or myself if we didn't show up to his standard. So
yeah,
it's really hard to tell about him. It's like he could do no wrong, but with us, like we could do everything wrong.
Sure. And was your mother-in-law or the family aware of him, of the way he acted, Rosie?
Well, they probably were, but it was just when you're not aware of that, that's not accepted. We're talking about a hugely patriarchal society.
Sure.
Where, his father died when he was young. So he was considered even, the man of the house. His mother looked up to him. His sister looked up to him because he had one younger sister. And so like my daughter was saying, he could do no wrong. Was he ever upset that he did anything wrong? No, because he never recognized that he did anything wrong.
He was the golden child. He was.
Yeah. And he just never, he fought with his sister and his mother. I would often intercede. He would ask me, or I would just do it on my own to intercede on his behalf. I was like the peacemaker between him and everybody else. He had gotten violent with his sister, and I had to pull him off of her.
Physically violent
with her. And I had to pull him off of her, and her children are right there, and I'm shoving the kids, into the room so they don't see. And of course they're screaming and everything else. And and even when they would come over, I'm sure you'll remember this, Sunny, too, is this like, there was immediate tension.
Yeah.
When they would come over, it's like, not that they created the tension, he created the tension. I enjoyed their company, but together it was like oil and fire.
I was married to an abusive husband for 12 years, and I know that feeling of that tension. I got the tension when he came home, and I didn't realize it until right near the end. And then as soon as I realized, oh wow, like my heart's speeding up, like why is it doing that? Or it was like, it's time to go. He's going to make me sick. He's going to give me cancer or something. And that's how it is, right? All that cortisol, you don't realize it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a big believer, talking to the women. I've talked to women all over the world, and there is not one case where there's not some physical illness, serious or whatever, that
right.
When you're holding all that in, body's going to say, hey, it's got to come out somehow.
That's right.
Yeah. It's terrible. It's terrible. I don't think they realize that.
Yeah. So when did it get so bad that you're like, I'm not doing this anymore? What led up to that?
Well, there were a lot of things. I mean, I just felt like I could just never do enough. Or if he set a goal, it was like the goalpost kept getting moved. I'd get there and then he moved it. So I never made it. So it was just like, God, what's wrong? You know, and it never felt right. And when she was young, you know, I'm saying like 7, it's just like, I didn't like the way I was being treated. I just didn't like the way I was being
Were you
treated.
allowed to work there?
Um, yes, I worked in his company, and then I did some other projects in Saudi Arabia for other female business owners.
Sure.
I did that, but he didn't like me out of the house. You know, I volunteered a lot. I volunteered with a huge American women's group. We held our meetings at the U.S. Embassy. I produced live shows every month for years there,
Wow.
but that was on a volunteer basis.
Mm-hmm.
But if I went out and didn't, he called me hedonistic. You know, here I'm in a country, I'm away from my family, I'm away from my friends, I left my career. And then for me to have any kind of fun or pleasure or outlet, if I got out of the house, then I was labeled hedonistic, but then he could go out with his friends and it would be okay.
Did he take you out? Did he ever take you out on dates or anything?
We went out, yeah, we went out
Show
to
you
dinner.
out?
And because there isn't much to do in Saudi Arabia, there's a huge social network. So you're always going to people's homes, or you're having, you know, you're entertaining at your home. I would have anywhere from 3 to 5 lunches or dinners a week that I would either be invited to or I was actually hosting.
Wow.
You know,
Did you have help in your
yeah,
house? You had
yeah,
help.
we had live-in help.
Mhm.
Which was good, but
Nice.
had to get used to it. You know,
Yeah,
some
yeah,
things
yeah.
you're wandering around the house, but you know, I got used to that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that was okay. That was okay.
Okay, so I just, we're getting a sense of, life there, which, social, but he got jealous. He kind of just wanted the control where you were at what time, and yeah,
Yes,
if you allowed it, that was okay, and if you didn't, well. So were you allowed to come home and visit your family? Did you do it like yearly or not?
I only could see my family when we went together. He
Okay.
never let me go visit my family alone. You know, like all my other girlfriends, American friends would easily, you know, they'd go and their husband would be just there. But I never could until my father was really ill. And then like the last, you know, few years of his life and then my mom's, I was allowed, you know, to have a separate trip. We went together as a family during the summer. And then I was allowed to go once a year to visit them when they were getting older.
Okay.
And even in the first few years of marriage, I didn't even feel like I could call. I had to ask permission. Can I call my family?
Wow.
So maybe I would call them, you know, maybe twice a year or something, you know. Nothing ever felt that it was mine. It was like everything was his. It was his house, his money, his phone, his this. So it's like I was just visiting.
Yeah.
You
Tonya,
know,
when you went to school, Sonny, you were at school, you had friends, I'm sure,
Yeah.
girlfriends, and were you allowed a boyfriend?
No, I was not allowed to really have a dating life.
Okay.
Anyway, and yeah, but I had a social network. I was allowed to have friends. But yeah, I was definitely allowed to have
Did you
friends.
have a curfew?
I never really needed one because I was never the type to go out super late anyway, and if I did, it was very rare. Like it was occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
I was never the real super hardcore partier, even as a young kid or teenager. That was never my personality.
So when you went home with your mom to California, it's a little bit of a difference.
Oh yeah.
Did you like California? Were you comfortable there? Did you just want to get back to Lebanon, or how did you feel?
All of it, because it was one thing visiting California every year, visiting San Francisco in a whole nother world, living there because I had a major culture shock
Yeah.
coming here and living here. Even though I am an American, I was born overseas, but I'm
Sure.
American. it was a very different feeling. I felt very much like an outsider and an insider. So it's like I didn't feel like I fully belonged in either world, because like when I was in the Middle East, I was like the American Middle Eastern girl.
Right.
So I just never felt like I fully belonged anywhere fully. So it was a big adjustment. It was nice being able to see my mom's side of the family more, because like I only got to see them once a year.
Do you have cousins in the States?
Yes, I do. I
Okay.
do.
And you spoke French, Arabic, and English? Is that the 3 languages that you
Yes.
speak?
Yes.
Okay. So you went on the yearly trips, and it was nice, but it was nice to go back home because you felt a little more comfortable maybe there. Now, the one thing that I had read, Rosie, Sunny, was you were waiting for Sunny to tell you she was done.
Right.
Why you never said to her, I gotta go, let's go?
The reason is that in the Middle East, custody automatically goes to the father until they reach major at 18. So even though like from the time she was 7, it's like I didn't know how I was going to survive. I mean, he was so critical of me that I thought, okay, I'll just hire a nanny and I will leave, because I couldn't stand his constant criticism.
Right.
And if that was going to be better for her, I was going to just do it. And then when I told him that, on several, he goes, no. Then he would back down. But I really believed, it's like he just told me I was a horrible a mother. But I couldn't leave her. I would have never left without my daughter, even though I was saying that, but I was feeling so desperate because, there are no courts and custody. It's just automatic. And so if I left before she turned 18, I just can't even imagine the battle that would have ensued. I mean, already now, she was just shy of turning 21 when we did our escape. And he still to this day thinks I brainwashed her and I kidnapped her. So
he really lives in a different world than the two of you.
It's scary. It's really scary what world he lives in. And then we suffer the aftermath of that world, because he's stalked and harassed me relentlessly since we left him for 8 years.
Wow. Like what does he do? Does he personally, or does he send people, or?
Well, for a while I was terrified. Like there's a part of me that's still scared he could send people, even though he won't do it himself.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he could easily send people. Like recently, last year, while we were writing our memoir, we found out he hired or is working with someone who's stalking me online, who works with the Lebanese militaries. Like, my God, it's like shit.
Yeah.
I was really scared, and he would somehow, we don't know how, but he would find out where we lived every time we moved. He sent stuff to me. He would create fake profiles on Facebook, and I would report them. And I don't know if Facebook has done anything about it, which is why I have a love-hate relationship with Facebook, because they need to do so much better at protecting women and children like us. Like, this is not okay. Yeah, and like he's reached out to friends of ours and our family members to stalk me and go after me. So he's used every resource possible. Like,
and all he wants is you back. That's it.
Yeah, even though I've personally told him many times that I don't want to be with you, and I sent him a restraining order. I mean, knowing it won't have much effect, but like at least having the documentation and evidence for me, because like I never know when I could use that.
It's a paper trail for you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a paper, exactly.
Yeah.
At the very least, it's that.
Right.
So yeah, it created a lot of fear for 8 years ever since we left him. I've been living in fear of him. I mean, he found out what university I was graduating from. He found out where I worked.
To your graduation?
No, thank God. Well, he couldn't anyway. He had to have invitation tickets, but he knew where I graduated from and where I went to school. He sent, because I know that because he sent a letter to my campus. Yeah, exactly. Like it was terrifying. Like that sent me down a really suicidal triggering path, because it's like that didn't even feel like mine. Like that was like, I was really, what I was excited about, like going to the University of San Francisco was, oh, this gets to be my space. Like I'm in a new country. This is really my experience. I worked hard. I got in. It was like a sense of accomplishment. And it's like, he
There he
invaded.
is. He invades everything.
Yeah.
He showed up and like he had to like make a point. Like I couldn't even have that. Even he was so resourceful from the Middle East. So yeah.
Is
Technology
there
makes
any
it
way
easier.
to stop him from coming to the country?
Well, he believes that he can't come to the country for some reason or another. My mom would know how to answer that question more than me, because like that's something between that happened in the court. I don't know. I don't even know very well. Like, but yeah,
Yeah.
mom,
I
you
know
want
in
to
Canada,
like,
if you don't pay your child support, they call them the deadbeat dads. They're not allowed to they're not allowed to come back into the country until they've paid that. What's
Oh,
up?
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, she was beyond 18, so he
Sure.
didn't technically have to pay her, but
That's right.
he was in contempt of court. I mean, I can't tell you how many lawyers he went through because I think they just gave up working with him as well. So he believes that he'll be arrested if he enters the United States. I'm not sure if that's true anymore, but yeah, he made everything 10 times more difficult than had to be.
And all he wants is her back.
All he wants is her back, and he's still, I mean,
To
as
do
of,
what? Just to be there?
he wants contact with his daughter,
Okay.
Yeah,
And
this
you're
is-
afraid of him.
yeah.
You're afraid of him. Okay.
I mean, since my mother and I left Lebanon, which was 8, 9 years, we left Lebanon in 2009. We haven't been back to Lebanon, and I don't know honestly if I can ever go back as long as he's alive. Because, like, would I want to go back to Lebanon? Would I want to visit my country that I grew up in? Of course,
Mm-hmm.
But as long as he's alive, I don't feel safe, especially that Lebanon is such a small country and everybody knows everybody. And like, if word gets out 1 minute that I'm there, he'll go after me. And I don't think I would be able to come back because like he would be able to have that power over me. So
Even as an adult.
even as an adult, yeah. So I don't want to even risk it.
Yeah. And
Because like
do
it
you
would
miss
not
your
just be,
grandparents? Do you miss your is she dead or are they still alive?
they all passed away, both on my mother's side and my father's. So I don't have that support. And like it wouldn't just be him. As an adult, it would be like everybody around him, all his like minion supporters, I would call them, because he would get them to rally and guilt trip me, like why I should say, and like kind of make me stay. I mean, they do that already with me now. Like I've been victim shamed. I call it victim shaming because like I'm the one guilt tripped. I'm the one made feel bad. Like, oh, your father's an old lonely man. Like he's gonna die. Like you should reconcile. Like they make it seem like I'm the one who's causing this. Like
How old is he, Rosie?
he's 73,
Oh, is he? Okay.
so he's not that old,
He's not that old.
but
Everybody else?
but it's exactly what she said. I mean, it just and it never. It's just like, he gets people to do things that are just like illegal. I mean,
Oh no.
it was just astounding. And
yeah,
I heard the recording. She goes, and I go, what? And he hasn't paid me a penny. I mean, I knew when we escaped that I probably wouldn't get anything, but our freedom was so much more important. But do I deserve it? You bet. I
Sure.
was married 23 years
Yeah.
and not a penny.
Yeah.
And so all of, his best friend, who is my daughter's godfather, and my best friend who's her godmother, he was, like she said, how he was talking to everybody. So he was talking to them, and they thought, we're just going to do it for Sunny. We're going to help her. And they kept talking to him and saying, well, you need to pay Rosie. He doesn't seem to connect that the more he mistreats me, the more it's going to push his daughter away.
Right.
And then finally they just gave up. We can't deal with him. I says, I tried to warn you not to talk.
yeah. My mother and I tried to warn my godparents multiple times. Like they wouldn't listen. Everybody thinks and believes that they're the solution with my father. They feel like, oh, we're gonna be the savior. We're gonna be the savior for you. We're that person. And we're like, oh, we've been down this rodeo more than you know and more than you can imagine. And no, you're not. Like, no, and like when if it's even more painful if they're not willing to listen and if they're so blindly defending him without even being open to our pain and what like the possibility that like, hey, something could be wrong with him more than us. Cause like the way they position everything, it's like my fault and that everything would be better if I reconciled with him. And I like they think he's a normal person that you can talk to and rationalize with. That's what people don't get about narcissists and sociopaths like my father. They look normal. I mean, like
I know.
when people say, when I hear reports on the news and stuff, and people say, "Oh, well, he didn't look like a rapist, or he didn't look like this, or he didn't look like," well, what do you expect them to look like? Is there supposed to be a physical attribute? It's not a physical attribute. It's more like what their personality is like. That's the code to know what you're dealing with.
And usually they're really brilliant. Usually they're really bright.
They're so brilliant and so influential, and they're usually in high positions like presidents and stuff. And
and so people think, oh, he's so smart. How could he do anything wrong?
Like what's wrong with us?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was probably one of the smartest guys for sure that I had ever been with. And of course, the flip side, he was charming. He told jokes, because I think he was so smart. He was highly cultured. He was the life of the party. I mean, even with his friends, he was the center of attention. He was the life of the party. He was very social, so it's like, and of course, that's the part you fall in love with. That's the part that you like.
The charmer, yeah. I got that too. Friends said to me, "Oh, you're so lucky you're married to him. He's so funny."
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm not.
Yeah, right. And they only see, like Sunny was saying, they just see that outside.
That's right.
And the painful thing, especially for me, I don't know if you got this as much as I did, Mom, but for me, like people will be like, "No, but I know your father." I'm like, with all due respect, no, you don't. I'm the one who lived with him 24/7. I saw what he was really like behind closed doors. You just get moments of time with him, of his life. And to say that you know my father well and like you jump to his defense, it's like, sorry, but no. If anybody was the expert on my father, it's me. A true testament to someone's character is how they treat somebody when nobody's watching.
Exactly.
So,
and of course, you don't ever know anybody till you live with them.
Yeah.
That really is the truth.
Right.
I mean, unless there are warning signs before and it gets like more and more evident later on, it's like it gets so loud and clear that it's hard not to notice.
Well, in the beginning, like women think, oh, he's so attentive, or it's because he cares about me so much that he doesn't want me to go out by myself, or he wants me to stay home, or whatever it is. You think, oh, that's so cute. Not cute. Not fun.
Yeah. Because because there's an underlying theme of control there.
Exactly.
Like, I don't need to know where you go. I mean, there was one episode where I had gone to church. She didn't want to go. I went by myself, and this is now in Lebanon. So because there are no churches in Saudi Arabia. So we're in Lebanon, and I turned off my cell phone, and then I went to a little store in the village on the way home. And all of a sudden, the clerk from the store comes up to me with the phone in his hand. And my husband was on the phone screaming at me, "Why did you turn off your cell phone? I needed to tell you some things to buy." And I'm going, I'm in the middle of the store, right? So I have to hold my composure as he's screaming at me and yelling at me for turning off my phone when I went to church. And I horribly forgot to put it back, turn it back on. It's this constant contact, it's like.
But that he could track you down in a store.
Yeah.
That's pretty scary.
Well, see, that's what he was doing, like, after we escaped from him. Like, he used every resource possible. Like, I worked for an MLM at one point.
Oh,
I don't know how. I really don't know how. I don't know how he did it. I don't know how he managed this. Somehow he knew where I worked. I don't know what he had to do, what he had to say, but somehow he got the personal contact information of my MLM manager who hired me on her team. He got her name and her contact number, what he had to say to those people, who he had to get through for them to hand them over such personal information, and what he had to say to her. I don't know, like, it was just scary. It was really scary. I think she told you or me, like, look, your father knows, like, I got this message from him, we need to talk. And I'm like,
Wow.
and then there's the flip side of all this, when people do the love bombing, which makes it more confusing, like when they overly are like too romantic too much at once in the beginning, like in the
Yes.
first few months, like that's also a red flag, even though it might not seem like it. Oh, he or she's being super romantic, you know, and
Or they
Buying you
tell you I
gifts.
love you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and buying you gifts and taking you to fancy places, and
Yeah.
you know,
Ladies, listen to this. This is, you know, all signs. I remember being 16 and had a boyfriend who would ask me out, say he'd be there at 7 and never show up all night. And by the second time he did that, I thought, okay, that's just a control thing. He just wants to keep me in. I said, if you're not here, I will go out. And so he tried it again, and I went out. And, you know, he wasn't happy. I go, what am I supposed to stay in because you don't want to show up? No. But thank goodness I recognized that so
yeah,
quickly. Like, I'm not doing that. No way. But it is, you know, some people would think, oh, you know, that's so cute or whatever it is, but it's not.
no,
It's
it's
not fun.
not.
It's not
And
great.
that's
Jealousy is
what's dangerous.
nothing scary.
Yeah, that's what's dangerous about it, is when they love bomb to get you confused. Like, they build you up and then they'll tear you down individually, like
Yeah.
slowly in subtle ways. So
He broke his hand that night punching it into a car door because he was so upset that I went out without him.
wow.
It's crazy. Yeah, they're crazy. And you know, I
yeah.
guess he's a little bipolar, you know, and different stuff going on.
I wish we had that excuse for him, but he's not. He doesn't have
Well, he's only a narcissist. In his
He's only
Just a
narcissist.
narcissist, yeah.
That's
Just a
all.
narcissist.
Just a narcissist.
There's a lot of them around. What can I say? Oh my goodness. So tell
And-
us about the flight, leaving.
Okay.
How long did you plan that?
So in April of 2009, Sunny was a junior at the American University of Beirut in Lebanon. And, you know, she just came charging home that one day and just said, you've got to get me away from my father. And this is the honest truth. And I said, you know, you're a junior. I go, can't you wait one more year? And she goes, like, look at her, just like, no, Mom. And I just thought, you know, how stupid, Rosie, you know, give her another year of toxic behavior, another year of poison. But at that moment, I thought,
You're thinking, you're like, come on, finish school.
yeah, it's like, we can just, you know, one more year, you know, it'll be a lot easier. So we go as a family. Remember, I was telling you, we'd always go as a family to the United States. And we were going to leave as a family to the United States in July. So I had 4 months to plan the escape. And I knew it had to be escape, because whenever, you probably know this from your own experience, whenever you're leaving somebody who is controlling, who's a narcissist, you never, ever, ever tell them ahead of time.
Oh, yeah.
That's when they can clamp down on the controls. Now, ours was a lot harder because we were in a foreign country. He already had the ability to keep us. I mean, technically, I had to get permission. I would have had to gotten permission to fly, you know, or whatever. I wasn't going to take any chances. So I started, you know, packing up things in the house, just taking what we needed. And I then told 2 other girlfriends in Lebanon, you know, they were Americans married to, one was married to a Brit, one was married to a Lebanese, and started to pack up things and put it to my girlfriend's house. And mind you, in Lebanon, there are a lot of electricity shortages, electricity cuts. So we were on the 4th floor. So if there was an electricity cut, I couldn't use the elevator. So I would get into the guest bathroom. I would lock the door, pack my boxes, and then hope he was not in the house. Hope I had electricity, get the box. Hopefully that nobody in the building of only 6 condominiums would see me, and I start asking questions, put it in the back of my car and drive it down to downtown Beirut and put it in her house. And I did that for 4 months.
It felt like we were smuggling from our own home.
Yes.
In a way, because like we felt guilty.
Did he not
And,
notice the stuff gone?
No, thank God.
He
I mean,
didn't.
like, we should let people know that at that time, like, he was working from home, and he's
Oh,
always
wow.
worked from home. He's always worked from home, but especially since we moved to Lebanon. So he was more at home than he was not. Like, there were a few times where he had happened to have a trip to Saudi Arabia during that time, right? If
Mhm.
I'm not mistaken.
Right.
And like, that just happened to be a coincidence or something. But yeah, he was home a lot. And like, one time, I remember, if I'm not mistaken, one time we almost got caught by neighbors, like, who saw us with boxes. Or am I making this memory
Well,
up?
maybe
Like,
for you, I don't remember, but it could have been.
I remember, like, at night, it was one of the times we were doing it at night, and like, we ran into the neighbors, and we were like, we're fine.
Yeah, and when even though when you're hiding something, you just automatically feel guilty.
Yeah,
And just
yeah.
like she said, I felt like I was stealing from my own home. Like I didn't have a
Yeah,
right to any of these things.
What were you taking?
The
our
first,
stuff.
No,
I
but
was
like what kind of stuff?
the first thing I
What
Oh.
did,
necessary things, like things or just memories or?
yeah, the very first thing I took were all the photo albums. I
Yeah.
took that was the first thing before clothes, before anything. I took all of those. And then I took actually some things off the walls because see, I knew he wasn't visual, but I replaced it with something else that I didn't care about.